Welcome back to the Postpartum Plan podcast. This podcast is designed to support and empower you through postpartum. Whether you're expecting, in the early postpartum days, or beyond, this space is for you. I'm your host, Madison Fugere, a dedicated postpartum doula and pediatric sleep consultant, striving to help parents feel confident and supported in their parenting journey. Each week, I'm sharing practical tips and expert advice to help you navigate all the postpartum things with confidence. Well, as much confidence as you can. Let's embark on this journey together, making your parenthood as serene and supportive as possible. Carlee is a certified nutrition health coach who specializes in emotional eating, weight management, and hormone health. Carlee works with individuals to empower them to redefine their relationship with food and learn holistic weight management solutions for lasting health and happiness. I am so excited to have you with me today, Carlee. Thank you for joining me.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited. We were just kind of like chatting about where we're taking this episode today, and I'm excited because it really works out well that the episode before this was with Katie, and we talked a lot about like the bounce back culture and the postpartum diet culture and how, social media and the world really like targets new parents, and it can be really overwhelming. And so I'm excited because today we are going to kind of like take it to the next part and talk about, okay, so if we're not dieting and we're not talking about this like bounce back culture, then how are we keeping our bodies energized? What are we feeding ourselves? Like what should we be mindful of and all that stuff? So I'm super excited to have you today to kind of give people more info on that topic.
Yeah, no, I'm so excited to share little tips and tricks anywhere that can be helpful for people.
Absolutely. Now, do you want to kind of start by telling everybody a little bit about yourself since it's the first time on the podcast and share, what you do and how you got into it and all that jazz?
Yeah, definitely. I'll kind of give a short story, but I am a certified nutrition health coach. I specialize in emotional eating and hormone health, as well as weight management. So a lot of different things, but it really all comes together, which you'll even see in our discussion. I went through my own health journey, so that's really where it all stemmed from. I was in a totally different career. And then I realized as I was going through my own journey, I really wanted to help others, which led me to what I'm doing now. I help mainly females, but open to helping males as well. But my main focus is usually females. Those are my main clients. And I really help all ages. I think everyone needs support. And I think what's really helpful too, and I know that this will be brought up as well, but I know that I've had moms, I've had people that are trying to get pregnant, I've had people that just had a baby that are pregnant. And I think what people need to know is there's so many things that you can follow for your whole life, but it'll be extra beneficial when you do have a baby or you're pregnant because life gets really crazy. So that's kind of a gist of what I do, but I really work on finding an easy way, right? An easy formula, which I have and I'll share with you today, but a really easy formula to make it a lifestyle, not be on a diet, not be on a bounce back culture, right? Like I grew up on so many diets and it got me nowhere. So it was a constant cycle. So really finding that balance and that lifestyle is what I want to do for others.
I love that. I love it. And I think that it's so overwhelming when people, have lived in this diet culture and then do have babies, right? Or even people who don't, but it can be so challenging to be like not feeling like yourself, right? And it's so quick to be so tired and want to just like sleep when the baby sleeps or, have so many things that you need to get done. And a lot of the time with my postpartum clients, I'm like, have you eaten today? And they're like, no. And it's 1:00. And I'm like, you've nursed like 4 times. Or even if they're bottle feeding, I'm like, it's still 1:00. You're going to faint like holding your baby, like eat food, right? So it's so important to be feeding their bodies. And I think that having some tips and tricks of, good ways to do so, how to kind of like those one-handed snacks or like quick, I think it's a lot of snacking, right? And when we think of snacking, we think of like unhealthy options, but I think that knowing that there can be balanced things. Katie actually in the last episode said something about like rather than calling them snacks, calling them like mini meals, which I thought was so smart because I was like, it really reframes your brain, right? And so kind of like having like a balanced mini
Mhm.
meal or a snack. And so yeah, I'm excited to kind of, dive into it. I know a lot of the stuff that you do and like you mentioned has a connection to that hormone, which is obviously something that we're experiencing a lot of hormones postpartum,
Mhm.
and people are experiencing kind of like getting their hormonal balance back. So it's
Mhm.
also something that's really kind of challenging when it comes to that postpartum period.
Yeah, definitely. And when you say like you have so many clients that say they haven't eaten all day, the best thing to do to balance your hormones is to eat.
Right.
And I don't think people always realize that. And I think with like social media nowadays too, there's so much overwhelming information. I'm not a mom myself, but I have stuff pop up and like it's crazy. So I know how I get overwhelmed seeing all this information. So I can't imagine someone that has a baby collecting all this information for the baby,
Right.
but then also for themselves. And it's just so overwhelming. So kind of, and that's why I do what I do, right? So I'm that like one-stop shop for
Right.
people to support, because it can get really overwhelming. And what you see on social media isn't always true either. So
Right.
I'm sure you feel like that too, right? With sleeping stuff and stuff like that and helping people with their babies, like there's so much information out there. It can really make us crazy.
It really is. Nobody really has the time postpartum to weed through and
Yeah.
figure out what is real, what should I be doing, what
Mhm.
shouldn't I be doing. So yeah, let's kind of dive into it then, right? Like what kind of suggestions do you have that people kind of do or don't do when it comes to
Yeah.
postpartum, like
Yeah,
feeding themselves and hormonal balances when it comes to food?
definitely. The first thing I will say is breakfast. Eating within an hour of waking up is so important for our hormones, for our metabolism, for our bodies, for the babies, right? Like it's so important. It keeps your body going. If my number one tip for someone trying to balance hormones is if you are drinking coffee, which I'm sure a lot of moms out there are
Right.
doing. But if you are drinking coffee on an empty stomach, it is one of the worst things you can be doing for your body. You experience more anxiety, you experience acid reflux, you experience more hunger. You're not nourishing your body in the right way and it's messing with your hormones more and more. You're going to be more on edge. So the first thing I will say is eat something. I'm not telling you you need to go cook up eggs and all of this stuff, but it could be, and this is where these mini meals are going to come in, it can be as simple as like a two energy bites, right? Or I know a lot of people are like into like lactation cookies or stuff like that. So things like that can be really helpful too. Just eat something before your coffee. So that's my number one tip for all
Love
those
it.
moms and non-moms out there.
I love it.
Yeah, definitely. Especially even for people trying to get pregnant. That's something that they don't realize is so important. Like you need to be eating.
Right.
Um, so I'll kind of break this down into two separate things because I have something called the core four. The core four is like my puzzle for my clients. It's the easiest way to explain how to live a balanced life that's going to nourish you. So, what I usually go by is those four things. The first part of it is 3 meals a day and one snack a day. That being said, for really busy people, busy moms, let's maybe break it into 5 to 6 smaller meals. I think that would be more realistic for some
Right.
people, but if they're able to have more of a larger meal, then do the three and the four. But you have to listen to your body. So it's
Right.
okay if one day you have an extra snack, like that's okay. But where the other part of the core four comes in, where it's going to be the most important, is building a balanced plate. So the way you do this is the core four is protein, carb, fat, and fiber, or color can also be fiber. This is how you should build your plate. So basically, you want the main part of your plate, right? You want a lot of good vegetables. You want carbohydrates, healthy carbohydrates. So you want the sweet potatoes, you want the rice, you want the oats, more stuff like that. And then you want your protein. So if you eat meat, you can do chicken or steak or burgers or turkey. And if you don't eat meat, you can do more of like a tofu or a chickpea or something like that. And then you have your healthy fats. These are going to be very important for hormones. Healthy fats are olive oil, avocado, nuts, nut butters. People think that fat makes us fat. Fat does not make us fat. You just need to have it in moderation, and that's key.
I love that.
I have a lot of clients that have come to me with unbalanced hormones, and the second we add healthy fats into every meal, their hormones balance. It's crazy. So
Wow.
that's really important. And then same with the carbohydrates. I think a lot of moms sometimes think like, oh, to lose my baby weight, I need to cut out all carbs. You need carbs. You need carbs to breastfeed. You need carbs to have energy. Like
Yep.
our brains need carbs. You are going to be a very cranky mom if you are not. So you really need all of those things. So that's like my puzzle, and it's a really easy way of doing it, right? I'm not telling you that you have to weigh all your food. That's going to make it complicated. So I really
Right.
like to just like build a plate or build a snack with these things. And if there's a few times you can't include every single thing, that's fine. But my biggest thing is always going to have protein. That's
Mm.
the key too. So always have protein with a meal.
I love that. And I think that that's so important to remember. It's like, right, it's moderation, right? Like you try your best to meet these things and like by knowing these different aspects of a meal or something that you're eating, like knowing these aspects of things that you want to have in them, I think is really important because I think it's so easy to just like grab something out of the cabinet, right?
Yeah.
But if you're able to kind of like meal prep things or have different options available or kind of like keep these things in mind when you're grocery shopping, right? To get make sure you're
Mhm.
getting those nuts for that healthy fat or make sure
Mhm.
you're grabbing, rice or sweet potatoes or something for a carbohydrate. Like you have more options at your fingertips and it's more likely for you to grab those, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you brought up meal prepping, so I would love to touch on that
Yeah.
a lot because I think that can be really overwhelming for some people, especially new moms.
Hmm.
People don't have time for it before a baby, so how are they going to have time with it after with a baby? Um, when it comes to meal prepping, I think I literally was just having a conversation with a client the other day about this because she was so overwhelmed when I said meal prep. And I'm like,
Yep.
no, no, no. Meal prep doesn't mean following a recipe with 20 ingredients, right? It doesn't need to be like that. I don't do that. Um, so something that I always suggest for everyone listening is meal prep ingredients. So like I
Right.
just said, like something that's really good. It matters how many people you're feeding a week, but what I always suggest to people is meal prep two different proteins, two different carbs, and then like have make sure you have like 3 to 5 vegetables or fruits already cut up. The reasoning, and then you have your fats, but fats don't really get prepped, so it's more just like making sure you have avocado on hand, making sure you have olive oil on hand, kind of all of that. But the reason for that is because you can mix and match, and I know that people that are breastfeeding or just busy, they have a lot of different cravings, so they might say that you make chili for the week, right? You're not going to want to make have chili every single day, so meal prepping ingredients can be really helpful. So
Yeah.
for example, say that you have like rice in the fridge. So you grab the rice, you grab the chicken, you add some avocado on it. Boom, you have a meal. Like it's so easy. But then the next day, you want something different. Oh, I already cooked a bunch of pasta. You put your pasta. Oh, I have shrimp. Like you can kind of mix and match your meals, play with different sauces, play with different spices. So cooking those ingredients,
Yeah.
meal prepping the ingredients can be really helpful.
Yeah.
The other thing is don't be scared of frozen veggies, frozen protein, frozen fruit. Like, don't be scared of that because I think we sometimes people connect frozen with unhealthy. And
Yeah.
as long as you're looking at the ingredients and it's just the vegetable, so much easier. Nothing will go to waste. You pop it in the microwave or the air fryer for like 15 minutes and it's so easy. So don't let the word meal prep overwhelm you. More
Mhm.
think like, how can it work for you?
For you. I love
Mhm.
that. I think that's so true. And then I would also say, like, one thing that I do with a lot of clients and that I mention to families too, and like, whether you have a postpartum doula or just somebody who wants to come and help, maybe a family member or whatever, I always tell people to make like a list of things that might be helpful, right? Like, sweep this or take the dog for a walk or whatever. But adding to that, like meal prepping sometimes, because like you mentioned, breakfast, right? Breakfast is just super important to eat. However, I find a lot of my clients are like, well, I don't really sleep well at night. I only sleep like 2 hour chunks at a time. So I'm not going to wake up before the baby wakes up to prep my food to eat. And like you said, it can be like really daunting, right? To have to like do all these things. And so what I do for a lot of my clients is do meal prep of specifically snacks and breakfast seem to be the common things that I do.
Mhm.
Um, and so for a lot of breakfasts, we make like, you know, breakfast burritos and throw them in the freezer so you have a whole
Mhm.
bunch of them, or overnight oats or muffins or like some
Yeah.
sort of like bread, right? And something that is easy to kind of like grab, like you said, so they can eat early on, right? Like I'm feeding the baby, I'm feeding myself kind of at the same
Mhm.
time. That's why I do tell people that I'm like, eat when the baby eats.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so
Um,
true.
right? So yeah, I think that that's also something that people can also add to their list, right? Like if you're overwhelmed by meal prepping, like you probably have people asking how they can help you.
Yeah.
Like let
Yeah.
them bring you over something to eat or meal prep you
Mhm.
something.
Yeah, yeah, like lean on people during these times, and that's where it is also really helpful to have someone like you or have someone like me that's kind of just like giving them ideas.
Right.
There also are like there's so many healthy meal prep services now that are out there. So like I always recommend doing that too, but I know sometimes it can get pricey for
Right.
people. So, but it might end up saving you more money and time if you're doing something like that. It
Absolutely.
can just be helpful, but that's definitely important. And then the other thing too is like there are so many pre-made options now, and there's healthy pre-made options. Like even right, something like energy balls, which I know we spoke about before, but that's such an easy pre-coffee in the morning thing, right? It
Yeah.
takes 3 minutes to eat two of them. So what I always recommend is like yeah, I would suggest to make your own, but if you can't, they have like
Right.
already pre-made things like this, or they have like healthier frozen things. Um, so just like be aware and look around for those good brands. And that's something that I really focus on with my clients is like letting them know, okay, these brands are at this grocery store, really
Right.
helping kind of with that shopping. So it's easier, but there's always healthy options. That's what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
Thankfully, right now there's a lot of unhealthy options, but we are really lucky to be in this growth period of wellness where there are a lot of healthy options. It's just sometimes they're a little more pricier, but it is going to be worth it. But that's why sometimes making your own is also helpful.
I think it's one of those things that it's like if you're looking for it, you'll find it. But if you don't know to
Yes.
look for it, it's like when you get a new car and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, everyone has the same car as me, right? Like,
Yeah,
because you're looking for it.
it's so
It's the
true.
same idea. Um, Now I would love for you to share like a couple of your snack kind of ideas. So, like, you've talked about different, balancing your plate kind of things.
Mhm.
But now when it comes to parents that are need like a quick grab and go snack or like
Mhm.
a one-handed snack if they're feeding a baby or something that they can kind of like grab really quick
Mhm.
and not have to do too much to. Are there things that you kind of typically suggest or snack like put together options that you found that work really easy for different clients and for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna say energy bites again because I think that's something that's really easy and really small to pop in your mouth. I will say overnight oats, and I know that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Very easy. With the overnight oats, there's even like mush, which is like pre-made overnight oats. Like throw a scoop of peanut butter in there, like you're good to go. So with that, you can also do like I think people sometimes think a snack just has to be one thing, but like you could do say an apple and a like jerky stick, right? Or two jerky sticks and a banana. Like little things like that can be really helpful.
Hmm.
Grabbing a yogurt, very easy. Put a little bit of granola in there. Like that's something that takes literally 2 seconds to put together.
Right.
If you have a little more time, then I would say like maybe make a snack plate with a few different things, but that's not really as quick as these other things. The other
Hmm.
thing is like muffins. Um, for example, like Simple Mills has a banana muffin that's really easy to make. So if you don't want to start getting all your ingredients, but what I would recommend is maybe like throw some sort of veggie in there, like shredded zucchini or something to add that fiber, or you could do chia seeds for fiber. And then you could add a scoop of protein powder in the mix, cook them up, and then put some peanut butter on top when you're going to eat it. So with snacks, I think it is sometimes helpful to just add like one more thing to it so it is filling enough. But if
Right.
you are really in a rush, grabbing something like a jerky stick or just a yogurt or an energy ball or a protein cookie, there's so many different things nowadays.
Yeah.
Um, Protein bars, really easy also. So just grabbing something simple like that you're gonna finish in probably 5 to 7 bites is the way to go.
All right. I love that. I love that. Because there's so many. so many different things. It can be overwhelming. I think that you said that earlier, and it really just hits home with being so overwhelmed and focusing on baby and tracking baby. It can be really, really hard to like remember your own life, especially when you're living in the same day every day. And the 3 hour rotating cycle of a newborn and a parent is just the same 3 hours over and over.
Yeah.
And it can be really easy to lose track of time and to lose track of yourself.
Yeah.
And so I love that. Yeah, kind of like having snack options. And one thing I've been doing recently, and I don't know if you suggest this to your clients at all, but like sometimes I'll forget to like grab a snack, right? And
Mhm.
so, or I'll forget for me specifically in like my own life, like we forget what we buy at the grocery store sometimes, and then it gets like
Yeah.
hidden in the back of the fridge and I can never find it.
Mhm.
So we have like an old school white refrigerator, but you know, for people that have like the new fancy ones, you may have a whiteboard or something. I've just
Yeah.
been writing on them like everything that's in the fridge and like stuff that we need to eat so it doesn't go bad. And I've also
Mhm.
had clients do a similar idea of like, okay, these are all the snack items that I've prepped, or
Mhm.
like this is what I have for snacks, so that when they walk by, they kind of like see it, go, "Ooh, that sounds good," and it reminds them to like grab something and eat. And I think that
Mhm.
kind of it's that like the out of sight, out of mind idea, even though you know the fridge is there, right? Like it's so easy to just like not think about what's in there, or when you open it, you get so overwhelmed. So
Yeah.
kind of having that list, I think, can be really helpful for some people too.
So helpful. I love that. So that's one thing. It's actually something I do with some of my really busy clients is I make like a deconstructed meal plan. So what
Yeah,
I do is I'll make like a list of like 2 to 3 breakfasts, 2 to 3 snacks, 2 to 3, like depending on what their week is like.
right.
And I'll make it all pretty so they can hang it on their refrigerator and or like even on their mirror, like somewhere where they're gonna see it.
Yeah,
Um, that's one thing. The other thing that I was going to say, because I just mentioned the mirror thing, is like literally where, like, the first thing we do in the morning, we go brush our teeth probably and look in the mirror, right? Or if you're going to get your baby, maybe not. Even if you need to put a post-it note on your baby's, like on the door or something that says, don't forget to eat, like just set those reminders for yourself. I think that's really important because we often just forget. The other thing is like, always have a protein bar next to the recliner that you're feeding your baby in,
yep,
right? So like for a lot of my working clients, I say like take a bunch of protein bars or a bunch of stuff to work and just keep it in your desk
yep,
or keep it in your bag. Keep a thing in the diaper bag at all times. Like make sure you have these options just surrounded in your house because that's also going to give you no excuse. You're going to sit down to feed the baby and you're going to see that protein bar just sitting on the recliner, and that's helpful. And this is something like that you can do for your clients as well. I feel like just like
yeah.
before you leave their house, like just plop some
Sprinkling
protein
snacks.
bars around.
It is. It's true. It's kind of like when you like leave your animal for the day and you like sprinkle snacks
Yes.
everywhere, right? Like it's
Yeah.
true. Because I think that the second you sit down is when you realize like, okay, your brain can stop for a minute. You know you're stuck to the seat while you're feeding baby,
Mhm.
whether it's breastfeeding or bottle feeding, you're kind of like stuck. And that's when your body goes, oh great, now I'm hungry. And it
Yeah.
realizes all these things. And so to have like water and snacks like right at arm's reach can be
Mhm.
so helpful for so many people.
Yeah.
I love that point. That's so true.
Yeah, yeah, and I think just to like go off of that too, I think we often get overwhelmed with the fact, like the idea of consistency, and it's interesting because a lot of my clients lately have been there. I have a lot of teacher clients, and like they're going back to school. I have a lot of parents that their kids are going back to school,
Yep.
so breakfast has been a little tougher. And they said to me, they're like, I forgot to eat breakfast. And that's always been sometimes hard for me to understand. I'm like, how do you like forget? But I think that's just because me, I've always been so consistent with breakfast because I know
Right.
how important it is. So what I was gonna add to that is the more you do it, the easier it will be. So like my
Absolutely.
advice is just start.
Yep.
It's so easy, right? Like this morning I was going to a workout class. I like almost walked out without food and I was like, oh, like quickly grab a banana. Like just like quickly grabbing something and having those things at your side is going to be really helpful to be consistent and get it going. So that's my other piece of advice. Like just start rather than keep coming up with excuses too. I know we're busy, don't worry, but
Absolutely.
I think that's a huge thing too.
Absolutely. Now, one last thing I'd love to pick your brain on, and I didn't even ask you about this before, so who knows if you'll even have an answer. But
Yeah.
so a lot of clients, we hear, especially with breastfeeding parents, that we need to hydrate, right? And so
Mhm.
we're talking a lot about like everybody in the world, I swear, doesn't drink enough water, right? And
Yeah.
then you add the fact that like milk production is being created from the water or the hydration that you're
Mhm.
intaking, so it's extremely
Mhm.
important to hydrate. And a lot of people will drink like the regular waters, but I know some people don't like the flavors of water, or like we're talking about in needing electrolytes and things like that. Are there
Mhm.
any specific like, drinks or hydration options that you kind of talk with clients about? I know there's so many like liquid IV and
Yeah.
elemental or whatever they're called out there. There's so many different
Yeah.
options now, but are there anything like good or things that people should or shouldn't look out for when it comes to keeping their bodies hydrated?
Yeah, definitely. So I like don't really say good or bad foods. That's like my relationship with food type of healing. But there are ones that are better than others. So for
Yep.
example, like liquid IV is not my first choice.
Okay.
It's like very high in sugar. What's going to happen is you might have a spike from it and then you're going to have a downfall. So you
Okay.
want to find the ones that actually don't have so much sugar. You want the ones that are going to actually have the electrolytes and help you.
Right.
There's a few brands. I can definitely send them to you so you can
Yeah.
like link them. That might be easier rather than me just listing them out. But there's definitely a few that are like very good ingredients. There are different ways to like make your own, but do they taste as good? I don't know, but I know a lot of people will like put some salt in their water and some lemon. The other thing is like infuse like fruit water. So like just like
Yep.
fill up a pitcher of water with filtered water and throw your favorite fruits in there. Let it stay overnight and then have that to drink. It's very good, very refreshing. The other thing is this is kind of funny, but like a lot of people say they don't like water, and I'll say to them, I'm like, do you have a water bottle that's really pretty yet? Because sometimes we think
Oh
that
my
we
gosh,
don't. Like, I
yes.
hate drinking water out of a cup.
Yes.
I'm weird. I just don't enjoy it. I need a straw. I need a pretty water bottle, and I will
Yep.
drink tons of bottles a day. So go get a pretty bottle, get a straw that might help too, because like even when you are breastfeeding the baby, right, you can just
Right.
pull
Easy to
it in
grab.
and drink it. You don't need to open a cap. It saves you time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the other thing is like make it a challenge for yourself. Like how much water can I actually drink today? How much water can I get in? Amazon sells these like water bottles and they have like the time of the
Oh yeah,
day.
yeah.
So you can like kind of like track it. So that's really helpful too. But yeah, I'll definitely send some electrolytes for you to put in the link. And then my other thing is just like lemon and fruit. Like make it fun. It doesn't need to be
Yeah.
boring.
I think
Um,
it's so
yeah.
like yeah, there's so many ways to add fun, exciting things to it. I have one client who's bought a soda stream and just used that because they were like carbonated water I'll drink, but I won't drink
Yeah.
flat water. I'm like, sure,
Yeah.
go for it. Right. Or
Yeah.
the water bottle
Tea,
thing. Oh
like,
my gosh, yes. I so
oh
relate to
yeah.
the water bottle thing. I often will be like, wow, I'm not drinking a lot of water and I'll just buy a new water bottle because I'm like,
No, oh,
I just
same.
need something new.
My husband hates it.
I'm like, I need to start getting rid of some of these because we're kind of losing space. But like, hey, it
Yeah,
keeps you hydrated, right? And
it
and
does.
they're especially when you have a large water bottle too, because then you don't have to keep refilling it often. And you're knowing that you're hydrating like frequently. Because I always tell
Yeah.
people, I'm like, try to drink as much water as you can while baby's feeding too. Like
Yeah.
eat
Yeah.
and
There you
drink when the
go.
baby eats and drinks, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You're
I love
taking
that.
care of a human being. You need to take care of yourself. I think that's something that like people and new moms often forget. Like you need to like do it for the baby. Like do
Yeah.
these things for your baby. And I think that's what we need to remember is like you want to have energy for the baby. You don't want to be feeding and falling asleep in the recliner. Like you want to have that energy. So I think that's really important too. Like as you're eating these snacks, don't think of it as like a chore. Think of it as helping your new child too.
I love that. I love that. I think
Yeah.
that's so important. Well, thank you for giving everybody all the input, all the snack ideas, all the thoughts on foods and kind of the support that I think people get so overwhelmed by when it comes to new parenthood.
Mhm.
So, I hope that they can take some of this information and implement it into their own lives and start to feed themselves more because we
Yeah.
don't see enough feeding of parents.
No, it's so important. And I have like so many easy, quick recipes on my Instagram, on my blog. So like they can always go on there. I'm happy to help people whenever they need. So they can always chat me and be like, hey, I need a snack idea. Like, let me know and I'll give them to them. So that's a
Yeah.
huge thing too.
Absolutely. Carlee's information will be in the show notes, so you can definitely reach out to her. You'll find all her Instagram there, so you can go see what she's kind of mentioned here. And you can check out all of her programs if you're interested, and yeah, pick her brain because she's amazing. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Of course. Thank you for having me. I hope this helped some people out there.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Postpartum Plan podcast. I hope that today's episode brought you support, relatability, and valuable insight. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review and share with any of your prenatal and postpartum friends and family. Your feedback helps us reach more parents seeking support. And if you're looking for additional resources, please feel free to connect via Instagram at Serene Moments Doula for constant information, tips, and tricks, or check out my website, www.serenemomentsdoula.com. See you next week.